Hello, my listeners. A warm good day to you all, my ardent viewers, and welcome back to our channel. In case you are joining us for the first time, the channel is Alfonso the Rothschild Tutorials. This channel is spread across Facebook, Rumble, and YouTube. All that you need to do is to type Alfonso the Rothschild Tutorials on YouTube search, Rumble search, or Facebook search, and you will be brought straight to my channel. This is an English language channel dedicated to helping all of us upgrade our standard of spoken, written, and reading English, especially for examinations like the International English Language Test System, IELTS, TOEFL, SAT, GMAT, and similar examinations, including, of course, the WIEC examination, the JAM examination, the IJMB examination, the NAPTEB examination, and similar examinations around the world where a test of written, spoken, and communicative English is a feature of an examination. For some time now, our attention has been directed towards having a better understanding of the IELTS Tax 1 writing. The IELTS Tax 1 writing is specifically directed to IELTS academic students. In this test, the candidate's ability to communicate effectively in English language and to write an effective report in English language is tested. The examination, therefore, is about testing your language skill ability, your language skill. It does not, therefore, have to do with having any proficiency in mathematics. It is not your skill in mathematics that is tested, but your ability to analyze issues related to mathematics, related to figures, and to put this in writing. It does not involve solving any complex math problem, therefore. On our previous video, on our previous two videos really, we took a look at the IELTS pie chart. The IELTS pie chart. And in the videos previous to this, we analyzed IELTS line graphs, the single line graph and the multiple line graph. Today, we are taking a look at the bar chart. Bar chart. Bar chart. The knowledge contained in being able to analyze an economic or scientific model, such as the one that we have on the board, to represent economic or values of a scientific nature in a graph or a chart, and to reduce these values to numbers or percentages is a skill that every living person needs. So it does not have to do with your being a student preparing for any examination. It is a skill that we need to possess to help us in our everyday life, no matter at what level, at what strata or segment of the society that we find ourselves. You can refer to this as a statistical model. Whether it is a pie chart, a bar chart, like the one that we have here, a statistical table, or statistical map, we are saying the same thing. Each of these is a statistical model that is a graphic representation of everyday realities, where we try to measure trends that are involved in values of an economic or scientific nature that have been reduced to quantifiable variables. I have often mentioned on this channel that a variable is a value of an economic nature or a value of a scientific nature that is capable of being measured in absolute units. And a statistical model like what we have on the board helps us to focus on the main features of such values, usually the highs and the lows, that the extremes of highs and the lows, and the comparison between them, so that at a glance one can identify the trends. That is, identify the values that are rising, the values that are falling, the values that are static, the values that are fluctuating, and a comparison among these values. Let's find out where there are similarities or dissimilarities among such values. In the IELTS Tax 1 writing examination, the candidate has 20 minutes of writing. Within 20 minutes, therefore, the candidate is expected to analyze the question, and after analyzing the question, be able to write the introduction, write an overview, write the first main features, and then write the second main features. So basically, 5 steps are involved, and you have to do this in 20 minutes. Naturally, therefore, the examination is for candidates who are prepared, who have already imbibed the skills involved, the techniques involved in analyzing a statistical model and writing an effective report of the analysis. Let us see. First step. Analyze. First step, analyze the question. Second step, intro. That's write the intro. Third step, overview. Write the overview. Fourth step, first main feature. First step, that's fourth step, you write the first main feature. Fifth step, second main feature, you write the second main feature. Based on what we've outlined here, your writing involves this is a second step, third, fourth, fifth. Your writing task involves only the second, the third, the fourth, and the fifth steps. In other words, you basically need to write 4 paragraphs. 4 paragraphs of a report. The first step, analyze the question, implies that you take a look at the statistical model, find out what it is all about, and what you are expected to do. In all IELTS Writing Task 1, the question follows the same pattern. Let us take a look at the information, the initial information we have on the bar chart. It says, favorite leisure activities of teenagers in Canada. So, the bar chart reports the favorite leisure activities among teenage boys and teenage girls in Canada. The period of the study is not stated, so that is not necessary here. Now, the values representing the amount, the values representing the amount of leisure time that teenage boys and girls spend on their favorite leisure activities are represented in percentages from 0% to 35%. And there are 4 leisure activities involved, as the bars here represent: sports, computer games, music, and shopping. The bar we can see are double. Bar charts are of 2 kinds. The single bar chart, and then we'll call this the multiple bar charts, where multiple bars represent the same values. And the third one is the component bar charts, where a single bar is partitioned into a number of components, each component representing a given value. But let us carry on. What do we do next? First, we should study the graph, that is the bar chart. We should study the chart, and having understood the chart, we will now start talking about the question. You can call the question the prompt. Let us take a look. A closer look at the bars indicates that teenage boys, that a greater percentage of teenage boys took part in most of the leisure activities more than girls. For instance, the blue bars represent the percentage of boys that took place in sports as their favorite leisure, in computer games, in music, and in shopping. These are the blue bars. These blue bars indicate that a greater percentage of teenage boys took part in these 4 leisure activities than teenage girls. The red bars represent the percentage of teenage girls that took place in these 4 leisure activities. Take a look. A little above 25% of boys took part in sports, and about 18% or 17.5% of boys took part in computer games, as compared to about 19% of girls. And back to sports, while about 26% of boys took part in sports, only about 11% of girls did the same. As regards music, however, an equal percent of teenage boys and girls loved music as their leisure activity. That is about 19% of the total population of boys and girls who participated in the study. However, the greatest percentage of teenage people who took part in these leisure activities were boys who went shopping. About 34%, just a little below 35, about 34% of boys went shopping as their leisure activities, compared only to about 6% of girls. So we can see that the greatest percentage, that shopping enjoyed the greatest percentage of patronage among the four leisure activities that teenage boys and girls engaged in Canada. That is the analysis that we are talking about. With this analysis in mind, we can now proceed to putting the report on this statistical model in writing. Now this is the question. You can also call this question the prompt. The prompt tells us what to do. It is an instruction of what to be done with the statistical model. It says, summarize. This is the key word. The report is a summary, so all unnecessary details are to be avoided. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. So these are the key points. We have to summarize the information on the statistical model, and then we have to select and report only the main features. That means no details that are unnecessary. And then where it is relevant, we should compare one value with another. For instance, comparing the highs and the lows, and so on and so forth. So the task before us now is the intro to write the first paragraph. I have often pointed out how the first paragraph is to be written. The basic information on the statistical model provided gives us what to write in the intro. We are to paraphrase it. We should talk about what the bar charts are talking about. That's what the statistical model represent? What does it represent? And then, who are involved? Where did the study take place? What are the values? That is, what are the units of measurement? The units that are used to measure the values that we are studying. Remember that in this graph, we are studying the amount, you could say the number of boys and girls of teenage age that took part in 4 different leisure activities. Those are the values we are studying. Amount, that is number of, quantity of boys. And these values are measured in percentages. Favorite leisure activities of teenagers in Canada. That is the basic information. And that is what we are now going to present as a part of the introduction. Okay, like we can see, this is the intro, the first paragraph. I have introduced the year 2008 into the intro. The period of study, the year 2008, did not originally appear in the information about the charts. I must tell you that these bar charts are not mine. I took them from IELTS. I took them from IELTSList.com, and then it is simply a sketch graph, that does not study any real value, but a tentative one to be used for a class discussion. And so, where I took it from, IELTSList.com, the year was not included. But I need to point out that to study any value, any variable, usually there is a period of time on the study. It is not studied in a vacuum. So that is why I've included the year 2008. Next, let's take a look at the features of the intro. It says, the bar charts are a study of the percentage of teenage boys and girls who took part in 4 different leisure activities in France. So a part of the intro tells us what the graph is all about, a study of teenage boys and girls that took part in 4 leisure activities, 4 different leisure activities, and then the place of the study is France, and then the period was 2008, and the values are expressed in percentages. We've already pointed this out. Alright, let us make a little amendment. Alright, we made a little amendment because there was some mix-up there. It says, the bar charts are a study of the percentage of teenage boys and girls who took part in 4 different leisure activities, that's sports, computer games, music, and shopping. It is necessary we mention the 4 leisure activities we are studying. In Canada, not France, like I mistakenly wrote before. In Canada, in 2008, the values are expressed in percentages. Having written the first paragraph, which is the intro, we will now talk about the overview. In the overview, the IELTS candidate or anyone else who is writing this report is expected to state in sentences what is observable, the observable facts from this statistical model without having to quote figures like the percentages we have here. Good. Now, in other words, in the overview, we talk about which values are rising, which values are not rising, that is, the highs and the lows. And then we talk about similarities. Are there some values that represent boys, that represent girls, that are similar? That's the comparison we are to make. In making or writing this overview, figures are not to be quoted. It is after we've done with the overview that we now move into the third paragraph, which is the first main feature. All right. But space is quite small. So let's take a look at the overview, which begins here. It says, overall, a greater percentage of teenage boys took part in the fall leisure activities compared to girls. That's exactly what we mean by make comparisons where relevant. Of course, as the bar for boys can show, a greater percentage of boys than girls took part in the fall leisure activities. Shopping attracted a larger number of boys. That's this. Shopping attracted a larger number of boys, while at once the lowest percentage of girls, because the lowest percentage of girls took part in shopping, while the largest percentage of boys also took part in shopping. An equal percentage of boys and girls loved music. We can see that here. Loved music, first off. In sports and computer games, more boys than girls participated. So that is the overview. We have given the information without including figures. So what we've written down here very simply is that in sports, computer games, and shopping, boys were in the lead compared to girls. Good. While the greatest percentage of teenage people, that boys, took part in shopping. The same shopping recorded the least participation among girls. So the next paragraph is the first main feature. In this paragraph, we will now discuss the features attaching figures, the percentages as we go on. Now let's take a look at the analysis so far. We have not finished, but we need to read what we've written first. It says, in all 4 leisure activities, except music, this, more percentage of boys participated. Shopping, sports, and computer games attracted 34, 26, and 17.5% of boys, respectively, compared to 6%, 11%, and 14% of teenage girls, respectively. Shopping, with 34% of boys, was the most loved leisure, that is, this was the most loved leisure activity, and also the least loved by girls, with just 6%. That is what we have here. Now we conclude by talking. You've seen the comparisons going on here, comparing this percentage to the other. Now the leisure activity we've not talked about is music, and it should also be a part of this paragraph. It says an equal percentage of boys and girls, that's 19%, took part in music. So with this, we are done with the first main feature, that's the third paragraph. So we may now move over to the final paragraph. All right. The last paragraph sums up the percentage performance of teenage boys and those of girls, and that of girls, thereby comparing their relative participation in these 4 leisure activities. It says, in all, the charts show a greater love for the 4 leisure activities by boys, who garnered 96% performance compared to girls, whose participation stood at 53%. Have you enjoyed our class? If your answer is in the affirmative, then like and share this video so that it can have a greater reach than would have been possible. If you do so, you are doing a great service for us and the entire humanity. You can also drop a comment on the comment section. Tell me what you feel about our classes. Tell me what you think we should do to improve our classes. And if you have questions, also drop it on the comment section or send me a WhatsApp post using the number 091-333-01790 or send me an email at alfonsotherothschildtutorial@gmail.com. Thank you very much, as I invite you to join me in our next class, where we'll feature another example of the IELTS Tax 1 Writing Bar Chart. As I await your presence in our next class, goodbye and keep studying the English language.